Let's talk about this Magic Power, the All-Star tribute to Triumph.
A great group of unbelievable musicians. We were just so honored when we saw the caliber of players that were going on this record. Much less the vocalist. I mean, it's an incredible list of vocalists.
Rock, metal, prog, and everything in between. Welcome to this episode of Talkin' Rock with Meltdown. Don't forget to follow the audio-only Talkin' Rock podcast on all podcast platforms. And now, it's time for today's conversation. Here's Meltdown.
Gil, I got to start out by sending my condolences to your hockey team.
I appreciate that, Meltdown. Yeah, that was a rough one last night. It was.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I was texting some of my friends that are on this record what I should ask you about, and Tyler from Theory of a Dead Man said, "Are you rooting for Edmonton now?" You want me to ask you if you're rooting for the Oilers?
Well, yeah, I'm gonna stay Canadian for sure. We gotta. Hey, this is our game. I thought. Come on, we gotta see those Oilers coming through now.
Yeah, they got so much firepower too. I think I texted him about that. It's like, I mean, obviously they came close last year, but man, just a lot of firepower on that team.
Yeah, well, us Canadian boys know how to play hockey,
That's right.
or we're supposed to.
Yeah. Did you play growing up?
Yeah, I sure did. I had no intention of being a drummer. That was just a fallback after I failed as an NHL hockey player. The way I grew up, every kid in my neighborhood, like you could have done a survey and got 100%. Every kid, I want to play in the NHL. I want to play in the NHL. I want to play in the NHL. And our dads all took us, to hockey practice 4:30, 5:30 in the morning, something like that. And we started in the Toronto Township Hockey League here in Tadpole B and worked our way up to Tadpole A, and then it kept going from there until we became frogs or whatever.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. And you went to play hockey at 5:30 in the morning before Timmy Hose was even a thing. Tim Horton was still in the league.
Yeah, exactly. He was, and I got to tell you, there's been great advancements in hockey, but it was really in my growing up, it was just fundamental to everything. I mean, we'd come back from hockey practice and we'd go play ball hockey
Mhm.
on the street.
Yep.
Couldn't get enough hockey, and eventually all of the kids that I grew up with, we all realized, we all looked around. Well, none of us are quite good enough. I think out of the entire league, I think there's maybe like one or two guys, that made it through. That's how tremendously talented these athletes are. You just look at them; they're just, one in a million kind of athletes that actually make it through to the big leagues. And so I, started at the bottom again over on the drumming side, and trying to figure out how to do that. That was the next move in my life.
Yeah, that's great. I kind of had the same epiphany when I was about 16. It's like, do I drive and try to get a job, or do I keep plugging away? And at 5'6", I didn't think I was going to have much luck in the pros, and I didn't play at a very high level. But yeah, I feel you there. We'd come home play street hockey as well. Yep. So, well, let's talk about this Magic Power, the All-Star tribute to Triumph. The one thing that struck me, except for the Envy of None track, is that a lot of the tracks, they didn't really veer much from the original.
Yeah, so there were a number like that, and then there was a few that went the other way, like Alex Lifeson and Envy of None.
Yeah.
They took the track that they Blinding Lights show, and they just made it completely their own track. I'm friends with all the guys on that band. The only person I haven't met is Maya, the singer,
Mhm.
and she did an awesome job. Creating kind of a haunting feel, I would call it. A really kind of textural landscape. And then the other big change up was it was Nancy
Yeah.
Wilson from Heart, who just absolutely killed Fight the Good Fight in only way she could with her signature voice. Very, very different from, Rick's original melody, or I wouldn't say melody so much as style.
Yeah. I mean, I was looking at this and I have a million questions. Then I'm like thinking, well, do I have any questions? But let's just start first with, I mean, we were just talking about firepower on the ice, but firepower in the studio. There are, I mean, unbelievable players on this record. First of all, let's start from the beginning. How does this project start?
Well, to your point, your previous question, yeah, a lot of the tracks were recorded sort of along traditional lines of the Triumph recording. So that's why Mike Klink, who was the master,
Mm,
of everything to do with this record. Mike Klink has to get full credit because he orchestrated everything, picked the musicians and so on. And of course, his first phone call was to Phil X because he's our guy.
mm.
And so he started back, in the trenches with Phil. The very first track he recorded was Allied Forces. To your point, you said, well, is it similar to the original? Well, I don't know. I listened to Allied Forces with Phil X, both singing and playing lead guitar on it, and I hear a much different track. The way he edited up the verses, and that kind of stop start thing that he did, and I love it. But that was the fundamental, I think, starting there, and then of course Phil's one of the top session players in LA. They were in the middle of COVID, so they had to try to do a lot locally there. So some of the guys from Slash's organization, and or his musicians that tends to play with live and in the studio. Slash himself, for example, is on there playing guitar. A great group of, as to your point, like unbelievable musicians. We were just so honored when we saw, the caliber of players that were going on this record. Much less the vocalist. I mean, it's an incredible list of vocalists.
Yeah, I mean, just you can go down the list of drummers, bass players, vocalists, the whole thing. It's crazy. So you just mentioned that this project was kind of had its initial start and during the COVID era, or was it before that?
Well, just before, but it was like, it was in the discussion stages. But when it actually started up, yeah, Mike really had, one arm tied behind his back because a lot of the studios closed right away. Studios are fairly close environments, so you can't really get musicians, in a close environment, and especially with a vocalist who's blowing, if someone happens to be singing while they're cutting beds, for example, or even the huffing and puffing that just goes on. Think of a drummer, like you're breathing really hard and, bad, bad, bad for COVID, obviously. So Mike had to work around that. And so in some cases, more isolation was required, like within the studio itself, or there's videos of the guys being masked while they're playing and so on, and just getting people to come out, and the first thing you'd know, you'd have a session booked, then the studio would be closed for a week, and then you'd have this guitarist booked or whatever, and then he got COVID, and then so this revolving door of problems related to COVID made it really tough. But at the end of the day, Mike just, he just said, "Hey, I'm getting this record done, no matter how much it takes," and God bless him, he did.
Oh, the record's awesome. It comes out on June 6th. And so most of this record, if I'm not mistaken, and correct me if I'm wrong, was recorded and produced in Los Angeles, but it was mixed at your place in Toronto. Correct me if I'm wrong. At Metalworks? What Metalworks, is that right?
Yeah, no, it was mastered at Metalworks,
That's
but
okay.
Mike kept everything in LA pretty much. Um, and yeah, we would have loved to do some of it at Metalworks, but it just wasn't feasible, under the circumstances. You got to remember, even travel, during COVID, I mean, it was like, who would want to travel and go through all the rigmarole and then find out that you were, had a quarantine? Remember all that stuff?
Yeah.
It
Trying to
was just
forget about
yesterday,
it.
but we seem to have forgotten a lot of it. Like
Yeah.
quarantining, what's that?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I hope to forget it, that's for sure. But so when you start hearing the tracks coming back, I mean, this is your band and songs that you helped to create. Could you remember the flood of emotions from hearing other artists do your songs?
The mind blower for me is just, hearing, say a guy like, Mickey Thomas,
Yeah,
um, killing Spellbound with that vocal and always being a fan of his singing, or the way Larry Lawrence Gowan from Styx just smoked the vocal on Somebody Who's Out There, and the list goes on and on. How about the singing drummers on here, like Joey Belladonna, who sings like an angel, by
yeah,
the way, and Dean Castronovo from Journey, who I don't think there's a singing drummer anywhere in the world that can sing any better than Dean. He was just like at the gold pinnacle level of Olympic medalists.
yeah,
How's that for an
yeah,
exaggeration?
yeah.
But you know what I mean.
Metal list. Yeah, yeah, right.
He's just awesome. There's no doubt about it. And so those are thrills, because you've played those songs like Never Surrender. I played drums. I always love playing drums to that song, and Rick sang it. And then you hear, Dean's interpretation on the drums and his interpretation on the vocal, and it takes you right back to those rehearsals when the songs were written and we were, churning them out, in a warehouse somewhere, rehearsal hall, or at Metalworks Studios, or wherever we worked the song up in the first place, and brings back a lot of memories. Really does.
I can imagine, and being a drummer, I mean, Kenny Aronoff, Josh Freese, Brian Tishy, just to name a few of the drummers on this record. I mean, like once again, just all the firepower on this.
Oh man, yeah, like Brent Fitz, just he was
Brent
killer.
Fifth, yeah,
Tommy Aldridge, like you don't get any better than Tommy Aldridge. You mentioned Kenny. I mean, come on.
yeah.
These guys, it's like it's good thing that the record company used All Star on the title of the record, because it truly is an all-star cast. I mean, like I said, it was for Triumph. It was just like, oh man, we're not ready for this. This is so amazing, and it really makes us. I don't know how to put it into words. Actually, it's such a feeling of gratefulness. I would say towards all Mike especially, but all the musicians, all the singers. We just feel grateful towards them all.
Yeah, and I mean, you've touched the lives of so many fans over the years, and now to have, I don't know, there's got to be 30 or 40 different players on this record. And I mean, these guys are all fans from Dorothy to, I mean, the list just goes on and on, just, to touch all these people like Triumph did.
I'm surprised. I mean, I've been asked, did you expect this type of outpouring, or is there any way you could anticipate? And it's like, no, not a chance. Of course, Triumph's like every other band. You start in a church basement or a high school gym, and most of your bands previously have gone nowhere, like everybody's starter bands. And that's the expectation. The expectation is, well, I'll probably get fired. Probably won't get asked to come back. Instead of getting $500, next time we'll get $400. You get all these negative expectations, and then suddenly when the audience reacts to the band, which in Triumph was the first time for me it was ever instantaneous, and same thing for Mike and Rick, and you just go, what the heck is this all about? These people are just they got the jaw drop going, and they're loving what we're doing. And so it was very easy to accelerate the band. It was just like, okay, pour more gasoline on it, away we go.
Yeah.
Heck, but you never anticipate this outcome. So to answer your question, no, you can't forecast any of this kind of, whether it's gold records or Hall of Fame stuff or a tribute record. You just don't. You're just starting. You're just kids, and you're just trying to make some music and you know impress some girls.
I was, I was gonna
That
say,
was always an important part of it.
I was just gonna say, yeah, the girls have to come in there somewhere, right? But yeah, my friend Bumblefoot is on the record, and he is one of the best guitar players I've ever seen. And he just wanted me to say hello, and it was a pleasure and honor to be on the album. That's high praise coming from someone like that. I mean, Slash is on the record, like you mentioned, doing that slide guitar. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean the guitarists are just a cavalcade of wizards, is what I would say. And there isn't a weak link, anywhere in the chain. But again, credit goes to Mike. I mean, these are people that he works with and he's made records with, and he has such credibility from all the great work that he's done. I mean, I suppose Guns N' Roses was Metallica probably being the two that are most talked about. But I know our experience recording with Mike, he was our favorite producer, engineer, confidant, mentor that we ever worked for. He was a master in the studio, not just behind the board and with sounds and things like that, but as a person, as a coach, and I think that's why he's so respected by the musicians, on this record, is they know what kind of guy Mike is, and how he is to work with in the studio.
Yeah, I was gonna say I never recorded a record, but you got the three of you guys, you, Rick, and Mike, and then would you say that Mike Klink, a guy like that, is like maybe like a fourth member, so to speak?
Yeah, we formed some sort of bond there that stayed right to this day. Mike's went up to Metalworks, of course, and every time he comes north, pretty much I'm going to see him one way or the other here at the studio, and so it's become a lifelong friendship is what it amounted to. Whereas we had other great producers that you meet, you had a great time with or whatever, but you kind of lose track of each other. Whereas in this case, it became more like buddies, I would say on a different level.
Well, this is really cool. The record comes out on June 8th, the Magic Power All-Star Tribute to Triumph. It's pretty cool that in 2025 you're not literally, you're not putting out new music or new albums per se, but this kind of puts Triumph kind of back in front of the rock fans again. Maybe for some that may have forgotten or just, are listening to different things.
Yeah, I mean, we've been working towards a mixed reality tour now for 3 or 4 years as well with our lighting director, Paul Dexter, who's also LA based. And this tribute album, in a way, is kind of maybe a setup for that. I'm not 100% sure when this is going to launch, but we're trying to get it out this year if we can. If not, it'll be early part of next year. And I think you're right. There's been a renewed interest in the band. And I think it started when we had our documentary,
Yeah.
which has been all over all the various streaming services and stuff. And we still hear from people that are, watching it, or they're even watching it multiple times if they're fans. So it's maybe the fact that we've been away as far as touring actually is a good thing, and that we certainly aren't overexposed. Let's put it that way. Meltdown. We
Yeah.
played those gigs in 2008. Those two festivals that we played, both down by Dallas and the one in Sweden, and we did that for a purpose. We did that because we wanted our kids to see the band, but it
Mm.
wasn't an attempt to put, say Mike, Rick, and Gil back together as the original lineup and play, tours. Uh, for different reasons personally. I mean, we certainly had the offers to do it. We could have done it. And my hat's off to the bands that are from our, era, let's say, that kept playing and kept playing and play, the Iron Maidens and so on. And some of the bands that have just seemed to be AC/DC, holy smokes. I mean, I know they've lost some of the members along the way, and there's been some tough times. But there's Angus, still going,
Yeah.
and I remember him from the very first time when they were just starting out.
Yeah.
So, but that wasn't Triumph. I mean, we got to a certain point, and we had different things. Rick wanted to do some different things musically. I was more comfortable behind the scenes. So the whole Metalworks thing for me was a passion project, and I had some family issues that made me want to stay home. I wanted to be with my kids. Uh, so there were these personal things that just made continuing touring and being away not really what was in the cards for the three of us.
Yeah, and sometimes you're not out there touring, not putting yourself in front of people, like you said. Maybe people forget for a little bit or whatever the case is. You just mentioned a mixed reality tour. I'm not sure if I know what that is or is this been announced. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Well, the reason you don't know is because it doesn't exist. So, and I've had people ask me, well, is that like what ABBA's doing in London? And I say, well, no, it's not. That's a lot of three-dimensional content and so on, and it's kind of an animated movie, if you will. Whereas Paul Dexter, he did Ronnie Dio from Black Sabbath's initial hologram
Mm.
events that were done. He also did Frank Zappa, which is where I caught up from. And I said, because we're buddies, and I said, Paul, can we do something with Triumph? So we talked about it, and he said, well, take a look at Frank's hologram. And so I went and saw it. We went to back to the hotel after the gig, and I said, no, this would never work for Triumph. So we were kind of scratching our heads saying, well, what could we do? Because we both like technology, and I've always been a geek when it comes to lighting and sound and things. So we started to investigate. My school up here in Canada was partners with Microsoft in their development partner program. They had a mixed reality department, and we started looking into it. The next thing you know, all of a sudden we went off on a different path altogether, and we've been through like two or three different technologies that we wanted to use to bring the original band members into a new band with new musicians. So basically, the best of both worlds, to try to have players that can cut the road and are younger than us and have got the tremendous playing skills, but be able to give fans kind of the throwback that they want. So we thought if we could bring the three band members into this and bring Phil back to reignite the original band, now we have a six-piece power trio. So that's why when you say I don't understand, I get it totally. I don't think anybody will until it's out there, until it's seen. But Paul and I are doing our best. No wine before it's time. We'll see where it goes. But right now, there's a lot of conversations between Mike, Rick, and I, and Phil, and our manager Jason, and Mike Klink, of course, who's been an instigator in a lot of things. And hopefully, we're going to bring something out there that fans are just going to go wow for, and then everyone will know what it is.
Now, now you guys seem like the kind of guys, and once again, correct me if I'm wrong. You guys seem like the kind of guys where if one guy doesn't want to out on tour, then none of you want to go out on tour. And so let me ask you this: do you want to go out on tour? Do you miss the stage? Do you miss playing live?
No, you're 100% right. We did feel that way and about it, and I with me, I because I wanted to, like I said, be at home, raise my kids, and I also had an elderly mother. There was reasons why I wanted to stay in Toronto. So once it takes you away from that, I'll call it live game, which is truly a sport in a three-piece power trio, especially for the drummer. And if you're going to sing on top of that, it's a real athletic endeavor, and it is for Mike and Rick as well. But your life takes a turn into a new area, and I love what we do at Metalworks, and I love being with my family. So ultimately, my family takes precedent over traveling. And I know you can get back and forth and so on, but I just want to be there all the time for them. So I'm very happy with that decision. If we get this mixed reality tour rolling, it'll be a great way to really thank the fans because I'm totally blown away with how loyal Triumph fans are. And I guess some of the thinking behind this meltdown is, as you know, in Michigan, because you're in Detroit, but everyone knows in Grand Rapids you would see Triumph, you see Triumph in Saginaw, you see Triumph in Petoskey, you see Triumph in Flint. Like we played all of those smaller towns as well, and we sneak around the corner and play Green Bay, Wisconsin, or the other way and play Toledo. Like there was always, yeah, there were the Chicagos, the Clevelands, the Detroits, and the LAs and New Yorks, but there were also these smaller towns. That's how we built it up. And that's why I think a lot of those fans have those experiences from those small towns, not just the big ones. And this is an effort to say, okay, maybe we can take the Triumph show back into those markets and bring back some memories and also some real surprises.
Yeah, I've used this line with many musicians before, and even wrestling professionals and whatnot. But you play for free, you get paid to travel. You just the travel can be kind of tough sometimes.
Yeah, and travel's a lot tougher now than it was then. I can say that. I mean, all my friends that are still out there that are doing it, I mean, they're really having their hands full with all the challenges, travel wise and so on. It's not getting any easier. Let's put it that way. But yeah, I guess that's why maybe technology is good. I mean, you're starting to see some of these bigger tours where they play less shows and they're trying to get, fans to come to the shows and so on, where we were the opposite. We were like, no, we're going to go to you. We're going to go to all the small towns along the way. So every 250 miles in America, there's another city, that we can play. So if we're playing a state, we're playing like 4 or 5 cities within that state. So that's hopefully something, a debt that we can repay because we are in debt to those fans that supported us and still support us to this day.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, if my memory serves, you guys got your start in the States at a radio station in Texas. Is that right? Were they the first?
Yeah, Kiss FM in San Antonio, they were the first radio station in America, to
Yeah.
my knowledge, to put Triumph on the air. Now, there may be some, you may know if you're from Buffalo area. I mean, we got on the air pretty early in Buffalo and so on too. But the first, I guess, real heavy airplay that really meant something was San Antonio. And what changed things was, of course, we got pulled down there by the most unlikely of circumstances. Sammy Hagar was headlining the Municipal Auditorium there, and he had Joan Jett and the Runaways and Yesterday and Today,
Okay.
special guest and opener. And Sammy went and decided to pull the plug on that and go and play open for Kiss in Madison Square.
Mm.
And his decision to do that, we should, I guess we should tip our hat to Sammy Hagar for that one because they called us and they said, can you could take Sammy's place? And we're kind of like, well, how's that going to work? You're going to issue a whole bunch of ticket refunds, and oh no, we don't think people will want ticket refunds. You guys are actually really big here. You just don't know it. And we thought, okay, well, that's nice, but we're also greenhorns and we're really not ready for prime time. But we all looked at each other and just kind of pumped each other up and said, hey, it's go big or go home. So you're going to have to go down there and you're really going to choke your guts out, make a fool of yourself, or maybe it'll just work. And of course, we go down there. Like I said, it was the first time going from, I forget what the biggest gig we played was, maybe 1,500 people, something like that. The Municipal Auditorium, 5,200 seats, sold out clean. Not one ticket that wasn't sold. And they just went berserk. So
Mhm.
it was like all of a sudden it was easy. It was like, Jesus, what happened? And then the promoter's like, oh, we got to go play Austin. We got to go play Corpus Christi. We got to go play. Yeah. And that whole we got to go play thing just started like kind of a steamroller. So that's where the seed was planted, and forever grateful to, the great state of Texas for launching Triumph.
Yeah, and Sammy, I guess, in a roundabout way. So you just mentioned, you're playing 5,200 seat theater or something, and I was just thinking about this as you were talking because I think I've seen footage of this online recently, and of course I've seen it for years. But that Day on the Green show, that was what, 83?
We played Day in the Green multiple times. I think twice to be exact.
Okay.
At Alameda Stadium for Bill Graham. That was big, big, big crowds. But we actually played a bigger show in Canada prior to that, like right in 1978, when we were just beyond fledgling stage, but we were blowing up in Canada because of what had happened in Texas. So there was all this interest in Triumph. So on the Canada Jam show, which was at that point the biggest show that a festival that had ever happened in Canada, it was 110,000 attendees
Wow.
at Mosport Racetrack. And we got thrown in the spotlight there on the closing on the Saturday night and everything, and it went great. So by the time we were down and we were starting to play some of these stadium shows in America, we were ready for it. It was the opposite of all the trepidation when we went to San Antonio. Every band goes through that. I mean, there's always these pivotal moments where if you start out playing in a church basement or a bar or wherever high school, wherever you start, and then you move up to a small theater, and then you go from a small theater to a bigger one, and then you've never seen a 10,000 people, and then you've never seen 20,000, and so on. But once you get up into the big numbers, it actually your confidence just kind of grows, and it becomes much easier.
Yeah, it reminds me of when my son would play hockey. We'll get back to the hockey, and he was a 14-year-old playing with 16-year-olds, and sometimes you got to throw them in the deep end, and they will sink or swim. And the good ones, like my son and like Triumph, they swam.
Yeah, and whatever that crucible is at the time, it seems, monumental. I mean, the first gig I ever played was at a wedding, and there was like 50 people there, and I'm there with the other guys in my band, and none of us are really, we're not even ready to play a wedding, to be honest with you. We're just on the amateurs trying to be professionals. And you go and play and people are dancing and you're the drummer and you go, what if I stop? What if something goes wrong? They're gonna stop dancing. I'm gonna panic in the disco. It's crazy. And then people say, well, but you go on stage at the US Festival, there's 350,000 people. Weren't you nervous? I go, what did I have to be nervous about at that point?
Yeah.
You know, I could do anything. They're not going to stop dancing. I'm not getting fired. This is just a win-win-win no matter what we do, because I already know they're already engaged before we even walk out on the stage or whatever. So, it's a whole different ball game at that stage.
Yeah, I
But
think that's what I was thinking of. The US Festival. That's the one I've been seeing. I mean, it's
yeah,
insane.
yeah, the US Festival was crazy large. When we came in and I looking down from the helicopter over the site when we were coming in, you look down, and you go, "Holy smokes, are those ants? Is that an ant hill, or is it really people?" Because it was like a city.
Man.
Honestly, it was like a city.
And
But we'd played so much in California up to that point, and we'd played all the arenas are in LA and all the secondary markets, and down to San Diego in the south, and up the coast to the north and so on. So there was really no hesitancy on our part, and uh, of any sort of thing to do with acceptance. Nor would there be, I think, for any of the bands. They were all bands that were headliners in their own right, that were on Heavy Metal Sunday. And for crying out loud, the day before that show, we just played Stadium with ZZ Top
mm,
at the Tangerine Bowl in
wow.
in Orlando. So which is 55,000, which sounds like nothing compared to what happened at the US Festival. But 55,000 is not just your small tea party.
Yeah, that's a lot as well. Well, I'll tell you what, Gil, we'll let you fly here to continue watching the NHL playoffs. Magic Power All-Star Tribute to Triumph comes out on June 6th. It's an unbelievable record. Sebastian Bach, D. Snyder, Nita Strauss, and with all the musicians we mentioned. It's really cool, and I'm really happy for you guys and to get this honor, I suppose. All these great musicians covering your stuff.
Yeah, thanks, Meltdown. It really is, a real honor for us. We're fans of, so many of them, if not all of them. Our paths have crossed with some of them. Like, so there's a few that are friends, like Sebastian, Alex Lifeson, or personal friends and so on. But Lawrence from Styx. But for the most part, like the people that we may have played on stages with or not played on stages with, but just admired, from afar, listening to their music on the radio like everybody else. And to have this all come together, uh, uh, with Mike Klink's baton and his recording and producing skills is a once in a lifetime experience. And yeah, a really nice one.
And by the way, before we go, I got to give a shout out to my friends from the Killer Dwarfs. I wore this shirt just for you. So
They're a great band.
love those guys. Yeah, Russ.
Canadian band. There
Yeah,
you go.
that's right. That's why I did it for you. So, Gil, thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Hey, Meltdown's a real panic talking to you and a lot of fun. So we'll see you soon.
All right, Gil, I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you very much.